Hello again, my name is Trifler and welcome to eXplains. This is the second of two videos on early World of Waves 3 ship design tips. In this video I'm going to talk about where using an all-matching gun layout is useful on light cruisers, a few don'ts, and a few different ways to make use of corvettes, including some things that have changed since World of Waves 2. I've also realized that a large part of the intended audience for these videos probably will never even know they exist. So if you know somebody who you think would benefit, feel free to send them our way. Thanks. When it comes to starting legacy light cruisers with an all-matching main gun layout, I've seen 5-inch and 4-inch, but not 6-inch, so I created this one for reference. And what do I mean by an all-matching main gun layout? So I'm talking about instead of having a larger caliber in the front and the rear, and then secondaries on the sides of a lower caliber, instead having them all match on the front and on the sides, and so they're all on the main battery and not on the secondary battery. You can still have secondaries, but they're not. You have side main battery guns. Now, although this design I'm showing here works, I wouldn't necessarily recommend an all-matching main gun layout in 1890. Where an all-matching gun layout becomes valuable is when you get close to discovering the first fire control system. And for most of the game, fire control only benefits the main guns. The secondaries remain on local. And with an all-matching gun layout, the side guns get the benefit of the fire control system. You can wait until you discover your first fire control, but once you get a feel for when it becomes available from playing a couple of games, then from then on you can design ships a bit before it comes available, and then just refit them once it does become available. Now, when using an all-matching layout, you can use a double turret in the front and back. The game does allow that in World of Waves 3. You will get a 20% rate of fire penalty, or I like to use these two single turrets in positions 1 and 2, because this still allows you to fire 2 guns directly forwards, but you don't get the rate of fire penalty. And you can do this on the rear as well, but it's not as valuable as it is on the front. Also note that if you use a double turret, it weighs more than twice as much, or more than 2 single turrets. So keep that in mind. A reason for this is because a double turret or a triple or a quad always counts as a fully enclosed turret. Whereas, hang on a second, a single turret with 2 inches of armor or less counts as just having a gun shield. Likewise, in World of Waves, having 2.5 inches or more of side armor is considered a fully enclosed gun turret as well on a single. So you can go to 2.5. One thing is, these numbers do not update when you change the turret armor. That is something I had hoped they would fix in World of Waves 3, but they have not. Hopefully in some future patch, but for now you have to actually delete the turret and re-add it if you want to see the changes. Okay, just deleting one did update all of them, so that's good to see. So you can see that just going from 2 inches to 2.5 increased it from 43 to 72 each. So that is a staggering increase. And again, that's because you're going from just having a gun shield to having a fully enclosed turret. For the purposes of a light cruiser with an all-matching gun layout, I strongly recommend using 2 inches of armor on the main guns to keep the weight and the cost down. On the other hand, don't scoff at 2 inches and just decide you might as well use 0, because then flash fires become a serious problem. Be sure to put 1 inch on top as well. Here, you could possibly go for a 1/2 inch, but the game doesn't allow it, so 1 inch it is. Also, I haven't used every single position here, even though I have on some signs, but one thing is, let me add this again. Okay, back to 43. So you'll notice here, if I clear the turrets and add, say, forward, these forward wings and these aft wings, okay, they don't, with this, let me try, I don't think they weigh enough. Yeah, so when they're heavier, you'll notice that they weigh a little more than the regular wings. And this becomes much more pronounced as the weight gets larger. It may be more pronounced with doubles as well, I'm not really sure. But it's something to keep in mind. If you're tight on weight, those should be the first ones to drop. Anyway, again though, using an all matching gun layout isn't something to worry about in January of 1890. That's something you want to look at when you get close to getting a gun fire control. The fire controls will continue to improve and the local will just stay the same. Local is just, your gunners using their eyes, and that's just not going to cut it. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about light cruisers is I want to mention that any light cruisers using the protected cruiser armor scheme, so down here, protected armor, you want those to continue using coal, even once you have new designs and you have oil available. This is because the protected cruiser armor scheme leaves large unarmored sections where the coal bunkers are located. If you switch to oil, those bunkers go away, but the armor scheme will still leave those sections unarmored. Therefore, I only recommend using oil on light cruisers that have one of the other armor schemes available, such as when you develop slope deck. This flat deck is not actually available at the start, but you could use that once you develop it as well, or all or nothing. But I think sloped comes first. I'm not certain, but either that or flat deck becomes available first. I'll bring up the manual real quick. So if you refer to this image in the manual, you can see that the sloped deck adds armor here on the side of the coal bunkers. And then if you look at the protected cruiser, you can see it does not have any armor there. So if you switch to oil, the coal bunker goes away, and there's still no armor, so then the shots just pass right through, and you don't want that. Coal turbine is fine, just not oil or beyond that. Now onto the Corvettes. I've only seen 2 pre-designed Legacy Corvettes in 1890. The main one is the 1700 ton. So this design works. You can see that it has Colonial Service check down here. You have to have at least 1500 tons to use Colonial Service in Rolled Waves 3. This is a higher requirement than in Rolled Waves 2. Foreign stations, also known as your colonies, require a certain amount of ship tonnage assigned to them in order to help maintain order. So, for example, if we were Britain and we controlled these 2 colonies here, then this zone would require a certain amount of ship tonnage here. And then failure to do so would result in these instability in these colonies, potentially leading up to rebellion. You would also lose prestige. Ships with colonial service checked are better equipped for serving in this capacity, and therefore the ship counts as being 25% larger than it actually is. Now, as of this recording, the manual actually says that it provides 50%, but I've tested it and it is actually 25%, so the manual is wrong. I'm guessing this is a carryover from the Roll the Waves 2 manual, because that was also incorrectly stated as 50%. I also have a suspicion that the colonial service benefits in terms of the ship's tonnage available for putting down a rebellion, because when you have a rebellion, the ship tonnage in the area affects how fast it's put down and all that stuff. However, there's nothing in the manual or in the game to reference about that, so I have to only guess on that. Now, if you look in the manual, it says that ships under 1,500 tons are ineligible for using the colonial service option, as I mentioned. However, what isn't mentioned is that not only do they not get the benefits from this, but their actual ship tonnage on foreign station is halved. Shout out to a recent Tortuga Power video for this one, by the way. He found that a 900-ton Corvette with medium range and normal accommodations is only worth 450 tons on foreign stations. So anyway, you have the tonnage requirements at each of your foreign stations or colonies. And so I find it's very much easier if you work with an even number to meet those requirements. And since 1,500 tons is the minimum, a 1,600-ton Corvette, similar to this one I'm going to open, is great for that. So 1,600 times 1.25 is a nice even 2,000 tons. So in this example, I went with 5 inches fore and aft, and which is the largest possible without a penalty, and 3-inch secondaries, just a few of them. I also considered using an all 4-inch layout. The main difference is the 5 inches have much better penetration, but you only get 2 of them, and then the 4 inches, you have a lot more of them. So either way, it doesn't really matter because these ships are terrible in combat anyway. Initially, the ship designer auto generator didn't put any armor on the turrets, so I did add some. It only has 15 knots. There is a jump from 15 knots to 16 in weight. At least there is at this tech level. Again, this ship is mostly a troop carrier at this point for meeting the foreign station requirements. Feel free to make it faster if you prefer. You can go up to 17 without much cost increase. But then if you go to 18, there's a large jump in the cost. So 17 is a good point as well. Then after that, it just balloons enormously. I also want to point out that although I like the 1,600 ton for the even 2,000, the 1,700 that the game provides does make sense because at 1,700 it lets you have the 6-inch gun without... interesting. Okay, disregard that comment. I had a different result before, but maybe I did something differently, I don't know. So 1,600 works fine. I think it would be cool if foreign stations could have some sort of occasional auto-resolve battle with pirates or other unnamed minor threats, just to make it so that having a combat-capable ship design would be significant, and then having auto-resolve would make it so you don't have to actually fight through all those battles with minor forces. I know the game does let you kind of cheese. You can actually set it to having no armor whatsoever and just put a single 2-inch gun on. And I don't like that, but the game does let you do it. The manual also mentions that short range and or cramped accommodations will result in a penalty to the ship's effectiveness on foreign stations. This is something I need to do more testing on. We don't know how much it affects it. We know from Tortuga Power's example that having medium range and normal accommodations did result in half. So whether so now we're talking about what does having short range or cramped accommodations do to a ship that is 1,500 tons or more. And then the cramped accommodations is rather obvious though, because it already penalizes any ship outside of the home territory just normally. So what we're really concerned about here is the short range. Okay, so lastly, I'm going to talk about small corvettes now. These are corvettes that the game says are converted civilian vessels. So you'll notice now as I drop the tonnage, at 1,600 tons, we have 20 months to build. And it goes down 18, 16, 15, 14, and 11, and then 4. So 500 and less, we are talking about these converted civilian vessels. So sometimes during a war, you'll find that you need patrol boats for trade protection or anti-submarine patrols really fast. And these allow you to do that. The downside, of course, is that when the war is over, they get scrapped, which is to simulate them being returned to their owners. So it's good to have at least one design for this purpose. It won't let you actually design one at peace when you're at peace. You can only design them when you're at war. So for example, I can't even show you whether a gun works right now, which is kind of annoying. You could automatically choose a 500-ton design just because it's the biggest, or you might choose a 200-ton design because it's the cheapest. However, I will point out that a 400-ton design will produce more ASW points than a 200 or 300-tonner. Therefore, I like to use a 400-ton Corvette for this purpose. However, if you're just using it for trade protection, or if you don't care about the expense, I believe, I did test this earlier, but I can't check right now, that with the 400-ton, you can use the 4-inch guns without penalty, and with the 5-inch, or with the 500-ton, I think you can use the 5-inch. No, that's wrong. Never mind. Okay. It's hard to keep all these designs straight. Okay, so then, yeah, I really wouldn't use the 500-ton then. Just unless you find some use, but it's going to cost you slightly more, not a lot more in maintenance. And so also I should point out, these are completely useless in combat anyway, so they just die in one hit and they're not going to be able to kill anything. So, don't worry about that too much. What you're here for are trade protection and ASW, sub patrols. Okay, another thing I like to do is I like to produce some actual 600-ton Corvettes, because this is at this size, the ships will not be scrapped when the war ends. You get to keep them, and so that can be especially useful once subs become a threat. And then the last thing I wanted to cover is you don't want to put both mine sweeping and mines on the same ship. The manual says that you will get a penalty for both if you do that. Likewise, you're not supposed to combine minesweeping gear and depth charges, or mines and depth charges. So you can see here the ASW value goes down to 1 when you add minesweeping gear. Now it's not clear if this affects trade protection as well as ASW, but I think it's best to just not mix, and it's easy enough to do that, you know. So that's going to do it for this video. I hope this was helpful to any new players, and for any veterans, I hope that I'm sure that a lot of this stuff was familiar, but hopefully there were some details in there that you found useful. If you feel like the work of making these videos was worth a like, that would be appreciated, or not, that's fine too. Please stay safe and have fun. Have a good one. Bye.